And the title is You Might Know America, with the word America crossed out. You might know America if you ever drove across Midwestern plains on a road between two fields of sunflowers, maned faces roaring east, west, east, hoping to spy bison meeting only graves at Custer National Battlefield. If you rode the Empire Builder on rails between empire's boundaries, barbed wire fences festooned with plastic bags, breathing in, breathing out, and imagined a young man hanging from barbed wire. If you mistook a church for a shopping center, alit to guide you through darkness. If you sweated through your clothes, hiking the North Woods in August, so Lake Superior's frigid waters looked like a silver medal. If a lone coyote, camouflaged by pumice sand and sagebrush, saw you first, then loped across the desert. If you climbed Mount Jefferson to the song of jet engines. Thank you. So I sort of like proudly and abashedly call myself a nature poet. Nature poet is a term that seems kind of quaint these days, and I hope that these poems will sort of blow expectations out of the water, or at least sort of blurp them a little bit. I also write a lot about grief and childhood trauma, and lately, for some reason, things being kind of heavy, I've sort of steered away from those poems a little bit. So I'm kind of focusing on, in some ways, I don't want to call them nature poems, but poems about landscape, animals, plants, things like that. And this poem was kind of inspired by watching my home state of Oregon transform. It's always been a place of climate extremes that are getting more extreme these days. Alkali Lake. In the rain shadow, desert grows. Lake is metaphor only. Spring hop sage and rabbit brush choke on dirt dust. Wild buckwheat shrinks from sun. Kick rocks, dig cracks into the clay. You'll find no water many miles down. If you stay here, your skin will split. You could trek over the mountains and drown. Choose your path, either deprivation or excess. How many winters since Heart Peak's shoulders wore a cape of white? No gods at fault. Your water bottle rolls away empty. The snow on the ground is salt. This next poem is part of a series of poems I wrote about Lake Celilo, also in my home state of Oregon. Lake Celilo, Celilo Falls used to be both the name of a village and a native fishing site that had been in use by native peoples from both sides of the Columbia River for generations. And the whole area was inundated when the Dalles Dam was built in the late 1950s. And this is well before I was born, but I was inspired to write these poems partly because I was in my 30s before I ever heard the story of Celilo Falls. And, you know, that's despite going through 13 years of compulsory public schooling and, you know, earning multiple college degrees in Oregon. You know, no one ever taught me this story. So this is kind of my own story of learning about this. So this, so the poem is titled Lake Celilo, and it starts with an epigram from the Oregon History Project, this quotation. Beneath the waters of Lake Celilo lies what were once some of the most productive salmon fishing sites in all of North America. July sun burns hard. Evidence Cherry trees never grew here before the dam. I have eaten those cherries, drenched in syrup, piled in pies, gobbled out of hand. For centuries, the river billowed over stacks of rocks, white clouds, sound of 1,000 canoe paddles. Now, east of the Dalles, the Columbia folds up behind the dam, the water flatter than a sheet of aluminum pressed out by the Alcoa plant. Winds blow through the gorge, pushing sailboarders across its surface. The lake is fake, generated by the dam, which is why I stopped to see it. A fishing platform, splintered wood, stands alone. 3 crows drift down, conspire. Upriver at the Inlu fishing sites, I saw 3 crows too, maybe ravens. Big black birds in groups of 3s must mean something in someone's tradition. I have no tradition, except to fly west yearly to remember where I'm from. And if, because of various things, I did not time my reading today, even though I normally do that, I promise. So if anyone wants to give me a 2-minute warning, you know, at any point, just please do that.
We'll just yank you.
Yeah. So this one grew out of some childhood memories of camping in Central Oregon. Willamette Highway. We swapped fields of summer crops and rain for high desert, Crescent Lake. Mom and Dad walked the beach as we 3 swam. Pumice shoreline, Ponderosa. Sometimes we rode to the island where we roamed prehistory. One day ablaze, on our way home, we jumped into the river, so cold we traded skin for scales. I have to say, I just visited that lake that I reference in August for my mom's memorial. And I walked to the island that we used to row our blow-up rowboat to because it's currently a peninsula. And it was like, yeah, it was very weird. It's very weird. Has anyone here heard the term thin places? It's like a British folklore term. Yes. Places where the other world and this world are kind of close, if not overlapped. Okay. I wrote this, I learned this term and I went, I never knew that term before, but I think I've been some of those places. Thin places. Heaven and earth overlap. You stand on an invisible bridge between 2 worlds, loosely stitched. You know it in a breath when ordinary stones in Scotland sweep more magic through you than Stonehenge. Or years drag before you know you touched the hem of heaven. After his triple bypass, I asked my father to visit the wild bird refuge where we walked between moss-dressed trees, where I held my breath, where I photographed him kneeling beneath a curved-out branch, after which he lived 26 years longer. Oh. Right now I have 3 more poems that are both like less than a page long, so I'm hoping that works. Okay. I'll just dive in. On rivers. St. Croix, Kickapoo, Namakagon, you paddle history weighing like water, watched by eagles perched in broken trees, led by periscoping otters. How smoothly you run a river rests upon your tools. Pack knives for cutting lines, dry bags, life jackets for shocking swims. No tools alone can't save you if you fail to use them wrong. Resist your instinct to focus on the downward blade. Pull yourself upriver. In a kayak, you push the upper hand against the wind. And I have a confession about that last stanza, because when I wrote it, I was like, I don't know what that means, but it sounds like a really good metaphor for everything.
We'll never tell.
We'll never tell. It's not like Bryan's recording it or anything, right? So I really try in my poems about, nature, however you want to define it. I try to defy expectations sometimes and not have it all be transcendent or beautiful. And in fact, this poem comes from an urban experience by Lake Nokomis in South Minneapolis. And this poem is in my chapbook, Fish and Wildlife, if you're interested. Mink. A boy stands on the lakeshore. He's left a fishing pole on the dock. When I'm beside him, he says, something is killing that duck. I see the head flop, a smaller head, teeth sunk deep in feathery neck. It's a mink towing prey 5 times its bulk to shore, mooring it among branches. The duck's head hangs under water. The body floats, still a duck, but not. I tell the boy I'd never interfere with a wild predator vying for survival. He shrugs in agreement, says, it's just nature. Before returning to his line, he adds, with slightest shudder, there was so much blood. All right, one more. Another, in some ways, urban adventure at Fort Snelling State Park, which is a little respite that's still well within the greater Twin Cities metro area, visited by airplanes from MSP Airport, sometimes a little too close for comfort. But this poem came out of an experience there, where rivers meet. On a raw day striped by sleet, I walk the trail around Pike Island, the one the Dakota named Witatonka. Wrapped in fleece and fog, I scan the woods through lens of dusk. All quiet. Rare not to see the herd of deer that snort at me most times I visit. Then the reason emerges from the trees and drifts across my field of vision. 2 coyotes wearing smoke ash robes, quiet as slippered ghosts, trot their rounds, hoping for a meal, a bad day for a rabbit. Their pelts so dense no burrs can weasel down to skin, paws larger than my heart. That heart pulses as they stride over it and slip between curtains of darkening woods. Despite the island's smallness, I won't see them again, can't trace their trail through grasses or across the river. I imagine each blade and drop their coat's brush tipped with quicksilver. Thank you very much. Thank you for being here.